Ready for a deep dive? We're jumping into AI in education today.
Oh, it's a hot topic for sure.
It is, and we're slicing through the hype to bring you the insights that really matter, especially from that U.S. Department of Education report. We've got it right here.
Yeah, it's a beast.
It is. But no worries, we've distilled it down. No policy jargon overload, I promise.
And it's actually a pretty fascinating read. You know, they really try to paint this picture of AI as a toolkit, not a takeover.
Okay, so less about robots replacing teachers, more like...
Exactly. It's about empowering teachers, giving them better tools, not replacing them entirely.
Got it. So not sci-fi, more like teachers' superpower upgrade.
I like that, a superpower upgrade. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's lay some groundwork. What do we even mean by AI in this context? They actually call it automation based on associations.
Right, and I think that that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because it sounds pretty technical.
It does, but think of it like, imagine a system that analyzes your students' writing and gives each of them personalized feedback. That's AI in action.
Okay, so no more like generic feedback for the whole class. Each student gets something specific to their writing.
Precisely. And it does that by finding patterns in the data and then using those patterns to provide personalized support. But here's the thing. It all comes down to what they call AI models, which is like the brains of these systems.
Okay.
And those models, they have to be high quality. It can't just be any AI. It has to be the right AI, designed specifically for education.
Quality over quantity makes sense.
Exactly.
The tool's only as good as its design, right?
Yeah.
But how does this actually play out in the classroom? Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're teaching a math lesson. Now, imagine an app that adjusts the difficulty level based on each student's real-time performance.
Okay.
So a student who's struggling might get extra support and practice, while a student who's excelling might get some bonus challenges to keep them engaged. That's AI personalizing the learning experience.
Wow, okay. So no more one-size-fits-all lessons. It's all about meeting students where they are.
Right. And that's a key takeaway from the report. It's not just about identifying learning gaps. AI can help us recognize and build on students' individual strengths and assets.
So instead of just pointing out what a student can't do, AI can help us understand and nurture what they excel at.
Yes, exactly.
That's huge. But how do we make sure this actually benefits all students?
That's the million-dollar question. We need to ensure that these systems are designed to be inclusive. The last thing we want is technology that widens the achievement gap.
Absolutely not. And that brings me to the real heroes in all of this, the teachers. They already have incredibly demanding jobs. How does AI make their lives easier, not more complicated?
Well, the report emphasizes that this is about empowering educators, so equipping them with the right tools and the right training to use this technology effectively.
Okay, so giving teachers a superpower upgrade. What kind of superpowers are we talking about? Give me the rundown.
I'm talking AI assistants that can handle those tedious administrative tasks like grading or scheduling.
Oh, man. That would be amazing.
Right. And picture this. Personalized lesson plan recommendations, so teachers can spend less time planning and more time teaching. And how about real-time insights into student learning, so teachers can provide more targeted support?
Okay, so we're talking about freeing up teachers to do what they do best. Inspire and guide their students.
Exactly.
That's a win in my book. But it's not just about making things easier, right? The report also talked about this idea of co-design. And I'll admit, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me.
Yeah, so it's basically about shifting the power dynamics a bit. Instead of just having tech companies handing down AI tools to schools, imagine classrooms where teachers are actively involved in the design process.
So teachers get a seat at the table. They actually get to help shape the technology.
Exactly. They're piloting new tools, giving feedback to developers, making sure the technology actually meets their needs and the needs of their students.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
mean, who knows better what works in the classroom than the teachers themselves, right?
Exactly. It's about bringing that real-world expertise into the design process.
Love it. Now, another thing that really struck me in the report was this emphasis on moving beyond just the typical use cases and focusing on the long tail of education.
Right. They're talking about using AI to support all learners, especially students who might need a little extra help, like students with disabilities, English language learners, you name it.
Making sure that everyone has the opportunity to succeed.
Absolutely. It's about making sure that AI is a tool for equity and inclusion.
And they talked a lot about the importance of context, right? It can't be one size fits all.
No, it has to be adaptable and responsive to the unique needs of each student, each classroom, each school. That's a big part of what makes AI so powerful. It can be tailored.
Okay, so we're talking about some pretty big changes here. Are we preparing teachers for this? I mean, do they have the training and support they need to navigate this AI-powered world?
That is the million-dollar question. And the report is pretty clear that we need to rethink teacher training, both before teachers enter the classroom and while they're teaching.
So it's not just about knowing how to use a specific AI tool. It's about understanding how these systems work on a deeper level.
Yes. Teachers need to be AI literate. They need to be able to look at the technology with a critical eye, understand its potential benefits, but also its limitations, and perhaps most importantly,
The ethical implications.
exactly. We need teachers who are prepared to use this technology responsibly and ethically.
It's about empowering teachers to be leaders in this new landscape.
Precisely. And that brings us back to that overarching message of the report, a human-centered approach to AI in education.
So what does this all mean for someone listening right now? Bring it home for us.
It's a call to action for all of us, whether you're an educator, a parent, or just someone who cares about the future of learning. We need to be asking the right questions, demanding transparency, and being a part of this conversation.
We can't just sit back and let technology happen to us, right? We have to be active participants in shaping how it's used.
Absolutely. This is an ongoing dialogue, and we all have a role to play. Now, the report does wrap up with some pretty concrete recommendations. It's not all just big picture stuff.
Oh, good. I was hoping they'd get into the nitty-gritty. What are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, they really hammer home the need for clear guidelines, some guardrails to make sure this technology is being used responsibly.
Guidelines and guardrails. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Oh,
We definitely want to make sure this technology is used responsibly. What are we talking about specifically?
Well, they talk a lot about data privacy, making sure student data is protected, and then, of course, addressing the issue of bias in algorithms.
Right, because we don't want to perpetuate any existing inequalities. We want to be creating a more equitable learning environment.
Exactly. And a big part of that is making sure that humans are in the loop, providing oversight. AI can't be a black box, especially when it comes to education.
Yeah, transparency is key, right?
Yeah.
We want to be able to understand how these systems are making decisions that affect our kids.
Absolutely. And it's about building trust, not just in the technology itself, but in how it's being used.
Okay, so data privacy, algorithmic bias, human oversight. What else did they highlight?
Research and development. They're really calling for a major investment in R&D that is specifically focused on education.
Okay, so not just trying to adapt some generic AI solution, but creating tools that are specifically designed for the needs of teachers and students.
Exactly. Tools that can help create those personalized learning experiences we were talking about. Tools that can help teachers with formative assessment, providing that ongoing feedback to students. And of course, tools that can support teachers, making their jobs a little bit easier.
It really does feel like we're at this exciting crossroads. We have this incredibly powerful technology, and we have the potential to use it to make education more engaging, more effective, and most importantly, more equitable. But we have to be thoughtful about how we do it.
I completely agree. And the report emphasizes that it can't just be up to, the tech experts to figure this out.
It's got to be a team effort.
Exactly. Educators, policymakers, researchers, families, and of course the students themselves.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's their education, their futures we're talking about.
Exactly. And, the report actually ends on a really thought-provoking note. A question, really, that I think we all need to be asking ourselves moving forward.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the big question?
They ask, as AI becomes more prevalent in education, who gets to decide how this technology is used?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Because it's not a given, right? It's not like the decision will just make itself. It's something that we need to be actively thinking about and discussing.
Exactly. And then they follow up with another really important question. How can we ensure that those decisions reflect our values and that they prioritize the well-being and agency of both students and educators?
Values, well-being, agency. These are really important things to be considering. It's about being intentional, right? Making conscious choices about how we integrate AI into education.
Yes. And the most important takeaway, I think, is that the future of AI in education isn't predetermined. It's something that we're all creating together right now with every decision we make.
So keep asking those tough questions. Keep those conversations going. Keep exploring how we can use this technology to create a better future for learners.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. But we're not done yet. We want to hear from you. What resonated with you? What questions are on your mind? Join the conversation. Share your thoughts. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a topic that's shaping the world around us. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those brains buzzing.